Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Plenty with Sulo. Our venue partner, the Department of Coffee. Clothing partner, GFlock. Hair and makeup, Beauty Quest. Be tuned to Daily Mirror Online. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Plenty with Sulo. Today we have a trailblazer with us who has impacted more than 3,000 children in Sri Lanka. She is Deshabandu Lynn Stanier from United Kingdom. Hi Lynn.
Hi.
It's going to be just an informal chit chat, right?
Great.
Before we start it, I just want to know how you embarked in this journey, because I know you came with the youth cricket tours and got involved with empowering children, helping children. So if you can just give us a small background about your work, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. So my husband and I had a travel business in the UK, and my middle son was a county cricket player for Surrey when he was a child. And so they came to us one day and said, could you organise a youth county cricket tour to Sri Lanka? And I said, I have no idea because I've never been there, but I'd love to go. And I came. That was back in 2001, and absolutely fell in love with this magical and enchanted paradise island. And we started organising cricket tours and honeymoons and weddings and cultural tours and everything. And everything was going very well until 26th of December 2004. And then obviously the tsunami happened. And so then things took on a very different
with tsunami, a lot of things change. So with tsunami, you change your cricket tours too?
Well, after the tsunami happened, our business kind of died because obviously nobody was coming to Sri Lanka at the time. And so I came as a volunteer with my eldest son, and we went to an orphanage. I'd never been in an orphanage before. My background was luxury travel. And so it was a huge shock to me. And I was just very disturbed at seeing children in that kind of situation in an orphanage, which I believed they must be orphans after the tsunami. And I went home. I made a promise to this little baby, a silent promise that I wanted to help her if I could, had no idea how, but went home with this idea of trying to raise some money to help support that orphanage. That was how it began.
So that's how you began to come to Sri Lanka, the future today, right? So if you can tell how you impacted this project, and I know nearly 3,000 children has been helped by your project in Sri Lanka. So if you can just share some stories about it.
Yeah, sure. So it all started very slowly and very gradually. But in 2008, after we did a restoration at the orphanage, a complete restoration, that little girl, I was kind of following her progress. And in 2008, they told me that she had a brother in another orphanage. And so I found him within an hour. And we actually found that they had a mother. And so then I thought, well, why is she here? And so then when we delved a little deeper, the father had disappeared at the time of the tsunami, and the mother became homeless. She had no means of supporting the children. So the 8-year-old son went into one orphanage and her newborn baby went into the other. And it was soon after that, a few months later, that I connected with her. Okay. But then after that, we realized that, you know, if she had a family, maybe other children had families. So we first of all wanted to see what we could do to change her life. And so we found her mother eventually working for a family in the jungle, and asked her if she would like her children back if we helped to support her. And she said yes. So we raised some more money, bought some land, built a house, and reunited that family in 2010. And they were the first family we reunited. And it was a very long process through the courts. But we thought, well, if we can do it for one child, we can do it for another and another. So we've been through the process. We were going through the process, but it was very slow. And so then we were thinking, this is, there's a lot of time and effort is going into one family, but there are thousands more children. How are we going to help all of them, not just one or two? So then we decided that we would we were already looking into alternative family care for children, which was being adopted in other countries, with foster care, and realised that there was no foster care system in Sri Lanka. So that meant that actually to try to get all children back with their families, and 4 out of 5 children do have at least one living, at least 4 out of 5 have one living parent and extended families. And so really the thought is that, more families should be supported rather than supporting the institutions. So then we started doing a lot of training for the Department of Probation, childcare probation services in the southern province, which then led to more trainings for orphanage staff and managers, NGOs, CSOs, anyone that would listen, really, faith groups and communities, just to talk about what is happening in other countries and how it might be beneficial to the children of Sri Lanka to actually make that system change. At the same time, we were sort of looking at solutions of actually how we could find ways of preventing children from coming into the orphanages. So as well as reuniting families, it was prevention of abandonment by trying to support families that might need just some help from income generation, for example, to keep the children at home. Family strengthening, income generation training, and education for the children in the rural areas that were not going to school because they didn't have the school books and resources. So gradually we started building up every year to actually increase it for more and more children to be able to go through school. And so now, because we're almost 20 years on, we've had lots of children that have actually completed their education, with the idea that if they have an education, they're less likely to abandon their children into the orphanages, because we know that so many of those mothers were lacking in education.
Education means in Sri Lanka, a lot of mothers believe that women, even though we have the education system, the normal process is not there for them to find jobs or an entrepreneurship. So with all this thing, I think from 2004 you were doing this, am I correct?
Yeah, or 2005 really.
2005, now it's almost, I think, more than a decade you're doing it. So what is your view on Sri Lankan laws and protecting of children and protecting the family unit compared to the other countries?
Well, I think in all countries, I've actually been to I've been to a lot of different trainings in this area, and all countries globally start off by saying this will never work in our country. And that's definitely the feedback that I've had here. But the point is that, nobody likes system change because systems are in place and it's easy to follow the system. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're right and that they can't be challenged. And I just think that, when you see children, even in the very best orphanages, receiving even the very best care, they will turn around to those people that are looking after them and say, I hate you. And they will say, why? And be shocked. And they will say, because you prevent me from going home to my family. Because every child that we've ever spoken to, and there's a lot of children, they want their fundamental right to love. And they can't have that in an institutionalized environment.
Every child seek for love for them from their parent, which institutions, even though, as you said, provide everything, they need a parent love, someone to be loved. So do you think Sri Lanka can think of foster care?
I think so, because I think up until 2019, we were doing quite a lot of training and getting a lot of feedback, and there was a more and more demand to understand the concept more. Then obviously we know what happened. We had 2 years of COVID, and then we had a year of economic crisis, so then everything sort of went flat. So now, since 2023, we've been coming back to sort of try to reconnect with different people to see whether that knowledge is still required and wanted. And the feedback is yes, everybody wants to know more. And I think even, at government level as well, there's a lot of misunderstanding around the concept of foster care. There's a lot of disbelief in the fact that, children could be safe in that situation. But children aren't always safe in their own families. And, just by sending children back in kinship care, which is better than obviously institutionalized care, but there isn't actually the support for those children and those families, which there is in foster care. So I would argue that children in foster care placement, with the right support and the right training and the right system in place, can be safer. Because
if they get the family who's going to take care, if they're financially and mentally and socially trained and improved, you think it would be the best system. I also think because Sri Lanka has to look at in a different way if you are looking to let the children to be loved. But in same way, orphanage and also we have correction centers or safe centers for girls or boys who are being abused. Do you think those children also can be instituted rather than in those? Because now the children are more on to thinking, even though they may not have done wrong, but since the home is not safe, they must have taken. So how other in Europe and UK, how they look at these children?
Well, those children, the whole concept of foster care is something that I knew little about until I started really delving into this some time ago. And I would say that the foster carers are probably the best people in the world. They're heroes, actually, of society, to be looking after other people's children so generously within their own home environments. And also they've had to complete a hell of a lot of training in so many different areas. And so some foster carers are interested in babies, some are interested in teenagers, some are interested in the ages in between. So they would have a very special, and some are also very interested in special needs children as well.
Yeah.
And so their training would be very specialized around those different areas. And so those people would be the very best people to actually look after those children outside of institutions, where those children would then get one-to-one care as opposed to 1 in 50.
1 in 50. Yeah, that's very true, because Sri Lanka, I saw recently, they have said the children who comes from the safe or the orphanage become very unsuccessful in the society because they have been out of the society. So that's not there. We may have saved them as a child, but we have not trained them to be how to be behaving in the society. So they end up in a lot of cautions. So my other question is, do you all provide training for children how they should be living with the foster care, how they should be living in the society with, because people in Asia will always say, oh, you are an abundant child, you have a background of like this, and there are a lot of things, because Sri Lanka is a very small country where everyone knows everyone. So how do you think that even the children are being trained to coming out?
Well, I think that perceptions have to change, first of all. And I think if we can start at the beginning in the orphanage there where we're working, and I always say that we don't support orphanages per se, but we do support the children in them. And so with the house mothers that we provide there, the important thing was actually training them in childcare, because previously they weren't trained. And they're now actually providing practical training for the local vocational training centre. But they learnt the importance of attachment and brain development as part of their training, which is really important as part of this process. And so children and the carers, they all need lots of support and lots of training, and there's lots of different types of training. It's a very wide subject. So it's we can talk about the umbrella of foster care, but within that there's so many strands that need attention to. But but because those children have had more love, because we've actually allowed those house mothers to bond with the children, to think of those children as their children at work, and then they have their children at home, so that they can take some responsibility of those children and care about them, so that those children feel cared for, then those children then can have, they've got those neurons in the brain that are stronger, so that as they grow up, that foundation is there. And so hopefully, if we could do more training in childcare development, which is also very important, that means that when they do get to being in the girls' homes, and they've got that feeling of strength and love in them that, you know, that they can sort of hold on to. But that is a whole other subject, the girls in the homes. And we do vocational training for those girls as well, because that again is something that is so vital to having young people leaving those environments at 18 years old and coming out into society where they have often nowhere to go. It's you know, the results of that are pretty devastating.
Yeah, it is. So coming back from your work to your being a businesswoman, then coming to Sri Lanka, not as a businesswoman now, someone who wants to create a future for children. I'm going to shift your subject into something, because recently you won the Top 50 UK award. How it will help you there and to your future business and also to your work?
Well, I think that, you know, it's so unbelievable for people like me to feel recognised, and I was really surprised to get an email saying that I'd been nominated by Dr. Sulachana Sikira. I sort of had to Google and look at it and think, is this real? But I think that, you know, it's very important to be able to highlight what you're trying to do and or what you're doing, and to have that opportunity through Women in Management. And you very kindly organised an event for us the other day where we could have female entrepreneurs together brainstorming this subject, because by talking about it, it puts thinking in people's minds that they go away and have more conversations, and that's really what it's all about. And I think that you know, to have this opportunity is a really wonderful one. Thank you.
I think more than I have to thank as a Sri Lankan, because you have done a huge change for Sri Lankan childcare, orphanage, and also the training you provide for the Sri Lankan orphanage and also child development. Because I think Sri Lanka, even though we have basic education and everything, the framework to go on to the global level is not there. But you came out with your own this thing, and you brought international trainers to make training materials and helped us. So what is your future plan for Sri Lanka?
Well, to keep going until we can get some change in. So I had a meeting this week with the Foreign Minister, the Honourable Ali Sabri, and who I had actually met at the Houses of Parliament last year. And then I met him at an event at the British High Commission for Princess Anne in January. And, you know, it's talking to the people at that level, but it's also talking to the people at this level. So it's from top down to bottom up and everywhere in between, that we keep talking, so that eventually there will be a better understanding for the topic, that people will think this is how we need to go.
At least they will start thinking and it will start working, because when you put the seed, it will grow slowly. And we want it to grow not slowly, but faster with steadiness.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as a Sri Lankan, first let me thank you very much for your service for Sri Lankan future and the children, and I'm honored to have you in my Plenty with Sulo. And I hope you'll learn, because you are being a regular traveler to Sri Lanka, not just someone who comes and do things. So it's honored to have you in my show. Today we had Deshabandu Lynn Stanier with us, who has impacted so many children of Sri Lanka not just to help them, but to develop them and to develop the Sri Lankan system, how to help the abundant children to have families. So this is, thank you so much for coming for my show, and be tuned to Daily Mirror Online. This is Plenty with Sulo.